Hello, you're very welcome to the programme. Well, I'm here at the White House, just across the street at Blair House. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky spent the night. In the last few moments, he's just left here in his motorcade, bound for Capitol Hill, where he is expected to meet a host of US senators there. The Ukrainian leader in town, of course, to press Donald Trump for those American long-range Tomahawk missiles that Vladimir Zelensky says is so key to his quest. It comes after the US president had what he called a very productive phone call with Vladimir Putin yesterday, in which they agreed to another summit within 2 weeks in Hungary. On his arrival to Washington, Volodymyr Zelensky said it was obvious that after a period in which Russia had cooled on the peace talks, it was now rushing back to the table, but only because those long-range Tomahawks were part of the conversation. Well, lots of conversations to be had across the town here today. We're guessing as to what the tone might be here at the White House. It is, of course, Volodymyr Zelensky's third visit to the White House since President Trump came back into office. We remember that fateful incident in February where the tone took a decidedly unusual turn and Volodymyr Zelensky left early. He was back in August, accompanied by a number of European leaders, and he'll be back here today. So let's talk about what we can expect, what lies ahead. I'm joined by our senior reporter here, Bernd de Boezman. Bernd, talk us through just what Volodymyr Zelensky is doing here today.
Well, primarily he's here to see about U.S. support for Ukraine going forward. President Trump, over the last couple weeks, he had repeatedly teased that he might send these long-range Tomahawks to Ukraine, which might drastically alter the course of the conflict. They have a range of 1,000 miles, which would allow Ukraine to strike very, very deep inside Russia. But yesterday he seemed to have cooled on the idea, but he said that while the U.S. has Tomahawks, it needs them, and it wouldn't want to deplete its stock. So I think the Ukrainians will be looking for answers to that, as well as where President Trump thinks the end game here. For one, it's not clear why he believes now Vladimir Putin would negotiate in good faith in Hungary, and what he thinks Ukraine will look like at the end of the conflict. At the General Assembly in New York, he said that Ukraine might take back all its territory that it's lost, which surprised many, including in Kyiv. I think the Ukrainian delegation will be hoping to hear where exactly Trump sees the end game and how Ukraine looks after this conflict is finished.
And it would appear that President Volodymyr Zelensky has a very determined approach to this trip. He met with some defence companies yesterday, and he's on Capitol Hill right now before coming to see the president.
Of course, and I think there is momentum behind Zelensky here in Washington. Yesterday we saw lawmakers again press for very, very strong sanctions on Russia. And the Ukrainians believe that, as you mentioned, Vladimir Putin is only coming to the table because of the threat of additional weapons being sent to them. So I think from the White House's point of view, in recent weeks, they've taken kind of a carrot and stick approach in which, Pete Hegseth said there could be costs for Russia continuing the war. And I think that message will be one that President Trump wants to send as well.
In terms of the logistics here today, it looks like it's going to be a bit different to what we've seen with past visits from President Zelensky here.
It will be a bit different. Of course, this could change at the last moment, but as of now, this will be a closed-door meeting that takes place in the cabinet room of the White House rather than in the Oval Office. So we won't get that sort of Oval Office spray as we did that kind of infamous first visit from Zelensky. But the White House often changes things at the last moment, and I'd be personally very surprised if Trump or Zelensky didn't speak to reporters at some point.